welcome back to another episode of Backflip Happy Hour. I almost called it the Let's Backflip Show like I did last week. So glad that you are joining us here. I'm Ryan Fring, one of the co-creative directors here at Backflip in all this pixelated glory. I actually took one of our old cameras, borrowed one of our old cameras, and I'm using it because I've been having trouble with my my webcam. So I've got that. And joining me always, we've got other co-creative director, John Shoemaker. Say hey, John.
Hello, John.
It only took like 2 months for me to get that. That's awesome. And joining us today, we've got our friend and colleague and confidant and just bearded man, time man of the beard, future. I feel like that should be a title. We got Brent King over here with us. Thanks, Brent, so much for coming on and hanging out with us.
Thanks, guys. I've watched the show in the past and happy to be with you today.
I was going to say, your beard is not on your headshot, which I'm a little disappointed because I love your beard. It's so manly. When I grow up, I hope that I can grow a beard like that.
I'm not caught up to your friend James, really.
or even Jeff, who has like his long, he's kind of going for Amish, or I think he's going to cut it eventually for his wedding, but he's just trying
death
to
metal, something
get as
like
much
that.
as he can.
Wow.
Oh, total.
And he's got, I guess I maybe shouldn't give it away, but he's got a reason. He wants to be able to get several different looks, you may recall.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. I remember. Yeah. It's for a purpose. I forget. Yeah. Or I forgot.
My wife's already threatening me right now, telling me I have to shave and keep giving me ultimatums.
Did you say Amy, your wife?
Yeah. So she's giving me all the threats and ultimatums. I keep pushing it off. We'll see what happens.
So, John, maybe Amanda should talk to Amy because Amanda won't let John shave.
It's a weird thing. She is like, no, you should keep it or whatever. And I trimmed it down because I was like, I think I talked to you about this, Brent. I can only get one style. It's you sort of figure that out as it gets out. It's like nothing's ever going to come in right here. So if French fur trader comes back into style, then I can really let it go. I can get the nice this and then that.
You're nailing it.
Get that half feather in it,
I like it.
But she's like, no, you should leave it, but I'm like, needs to be short to like look, put together. But then she doesn't like it because it pokes her. She's like, you can't kiss me, you can't hug me, it pokes me.
Like, fine, you can have the hugs and the kisses, or you can have a beard. You choose.
Yeah.
So, Brent, we've known each other for a long time, and I guess I didn't realize how long until I saw your bio. You moved here in 2006, and we met shortly after that. And I think I put in one of the promotions, as they say, the rest is history. But why don't you give us a little rundown of how you got here and we first met?
Okay, how I got here. So I'm the director of communications for the Diocese of Madison, and I took that job in 2006. 4 years prior to that, 2002, the diocese that I was working in, 2002 stands out for those who know recent church history as the year that the sex abuse scandal hit the church. It was not a good time to be in communications. A woman who had been the editor of the Catholic newspaper in my hometown of Kalamazoo, Michigan, and the communications director, so she was the one answering the phone calls from the media. She just said, I didn't sign up for this. I'm out. And this is in the summer of 2002, shortly after everything just kind of broke around the country and then around the world. So a friend of mine who was kind of my boss at the time, the chancellor of the diocese, he came to me and said, you understand the church well. Can you think you can learn the rest? Asking me basically to be the diocesan spokesperson, take the media's calls, but then also be the editor of that newspaper. So I did that from 2002 to 2006.
Mhm.
In 2006, I was in Rome for the 500th anniversary of the Swiss Guard. I knew that the past Bishop of Madison would be there too. He was an old friend of mine. He was originally a priest of Kalamazoo, or at least was for 20 some years. And we went out for a cocktail at the Columbus Hotel, not too far from the Vatican. And Bishop Morlino said, I think it's about time that you come work for me. I'd known him for about 12 years at that time. He went to do something, and a friend that was there with me said, I think he just got a job offer. So I followed up not too long after that. I'd been to Madison half a dozen times between 2003 and 2006. So it wasn't foreign to me. Came to Madison, said, all right, I'm in. Let's do this. And so 3 months later, I was here.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you've been in, were you the director of communications when you came over?
I was.
You were. So you've been in that role now for like 14 years.
At the same time as being director of communications, I was tending the bishop's desk. That we all realized very soon that was too overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
You can't try to do both. So kind of went completely into communications, and I can't imagine having tried to do that any longer. But that didn't even last 6 months, 8 months, and that's when William Yalley came in. Was in that time, who's now departing. He's leaving us and going to the Knights of Columbus. I don't know if you guys knew that.
That's right. Yeah, I think I did see. Oh, maybe in the Catholic Herald there was the announcement,
Yep.
right? Yeah. No, that's fantastic. And then I don't even know. Was it through maybe Mark that we kind of met? You met Mark, and then we were friends with Mark, and then connected with you. Because yeah, I feel like, you know, my first memory of you is the dinner at your apartment, I believe, right by the park, right? The park and the lake.
Over off East Gorham, yep.
Yeah.
So this is my first memory of you, Brian.
Oh boy.
Both of you, okay. Going back maybe 6 months or a year, I don't remember how late that is. So do you guys remember when Father John Newhouse came to Madison to do an event for St. Paul's? And there was a big event at St. Paul's, and then there was a luncheon over off Langdon Street. And I think that you guys showcased one of your videos, and it was your one where you guys did the iPod dancing type thing. And I think everyone knew who exactly was dancing what parts because they knew your guys' dancing styles. So that was the first time I ever saw you guys' creative side. So that was 2007, I believe, like spring or maybe even summer of 2007, probably right around when you guys graduated. Is that right? So then that's kind of how I even knew who you guys were. But Ryan, you, Monica was a missionary on campus. Is that right? And she lived with other missionaries. One person who lived with them for a short period of time anyway was Bridget Gill at the time, who became Yalley. And so she was dating a co-worker of mine. They weren't yet engaged either. And they said, hey, you guys want to come over for dinner? So we did. And I remember you taking Monica out for ice cream. Is that when you proposed to her? Like, did it have anything to do with ice cream? Okay, so, but it was just like you guys were leaving to go get ice cream. And it was, just kind of, so I think that was the first time we ever met in person. Probably you going out with Monica just prior to your engagement. But let's see. What was your original question?
Yeah.
That one wasn't fun for me, though. I don't know what John's got.
Nobody knows. Well,
yeah.
You
I do have this green stuff.
Oh, there we go.
Green
I'm
stuff
on
I was
now.
telling you guys about. But,
Ooh, yeah. Hang on. Hold it in front of your face. There you go. Now we can see it.
So that's chartreuse, and I think I poured way too much. Like I can't finish this. But Chartreuse is pretty cool, and it's all attached to the person of Saint Bruno. I wasn't intending to talk about Saint Bruno, but Saint Bruno is really cool.
But that's just how it happens.
Yeah. Saint Bruno was a priest, I think, in studying in Paris. He was in Paris. Now, this is a lot of our stories that don't go down into the nonfiction books kind of get fantasized, right? So, but one story I've heard was that the cathedral rector of Notre Dame in Paris died, and so he was laid out in the cathedral for days, and 3 days after he died, I might have my number of days off, he sat up and said, beware, you don't want to end up where I am, kind of repent type of a thing. Well, that scared the heck out of Bruno, and so he ran into the mountains and started up the Carthusian monastery, which still alive today. There are a bunch of monks that even take a vow of silence, and they just live in the mountains, producing everything that they need to sustain themselves. Part of what they produce is chartreuse for the entire world. Oh
wow!
So there's a movie called Into the Great Silence, or maybe it might just be The Great Silence, and it's a 2 or 3 hour documentary about these monks' lives, but nobody talks because they're all silent. But you get to see the day-to-day life. And one thing that they do each day is they use a little block or something like that and say, this is how many pieces of coal I need to use my little stove in my room. Or another time they say, this is how much food I need. But they also say how many drops of this they need each day.
Oh my gosh.
So,
that's
like
amazing.
you sit there going, I'm having some digestive problems. Give me 3. So.
And so, I mean, you say chartreuse, and it just looks like, it's just so green. And I know chartreuse is a color, but does the chartreuse, where does that come from? What do they make that out of?
That's a good question. Sorry, I'm not Googling it yet. Maybe you are.
I was going to say,
no, I'm just waiting for the knowledge to be dropped.
It's extremely herbal. So it's not like a lot of those things where it's the roots of, whether it's grapevines or other kinds of root system things that get really, really herbal. Mm-hmm. So when you take a sip of it, it hurts all the way down.
That's awesome.
No,
sorry, what do you got, John?
You're not talking about licorice.
No, not the anise flavor. Not like that. That's more the Italian style or Greeks.
And we do encourage, you have some kind of fancy drink. You don't have to have alcohol. But I was very impressed, and we'll just lean into our Catholic faith that it's okay that you have a little chartreuse while you're at work, because the monks of Bruno, as I am going to call them right now, make it. So you're supporting monks.
Yeah.
Friday's the bishop's day off too, so he's
Boss
not here
is
right
out.
now. Yeah,
that's amazing. All right, John, what are you drinking?
So I actually mixed up something a little bit nicer today. Old fashioned with bourbon. Amanda got me for Christmas a nice bourbon and a nice brandy.
Nice.
The bourbon is Noble Oak. Let's see if that's right in the center there. And she got me these and I can't remember the name of it now. It's like a pre-mixed flavor or whatever, but it actually it's quite good. Like it tastes
not like a bitters or something, or
no. Gosh, now I should have. It's just the name of it. It's got the simple syrup in it. It's got all the stuff in it. But it's pretty good. And then she got me these fancy cherries, just nicer quality cherries or whatever. So I have an old fashioned sort of thing.
The masculine way.
It's a bourbon
straight up.
A maple bacon. Oh yeah, and is the term Sazerac or
Sazerac?
Sazerac, yeah.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, you could get one of those at Old Sugar Distillery. I think that's the first time I had something like that.
I don't just have regular ice cubes in it, but the other
You
day
don't
I
have
did.
square ice cubes?
No, I found we have these silicone muffin things to make
Okay.
muffins in.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I could probably make a big ice cube out of one of those. So I filled one of those with water to make like a bigger, wasn't a square, but it was like a bigger one that would fill up more
Nice.
of the glass.
You're really classing it up.
Yeah.
So I've got like a witch's brew here. Actually, you can kind of see it settling down to the bottom. We get this Misfit crate once a month, and it's like all the vegetables that they can't sell on the shelves because they look funky. So we got like this much not ginseng. I keep saying ginger. So we got like a ton of ginger, which is like, this is like way too much for anybody's life. And Monica blended up some like ginger. I think there's a little sugar in there, and I think she kind of made a little simple syrup, but mostly just ginger. And so it's like a ginger bomb. But then I just add a little sparkling water and some gin to have a double ginger, I guess. That's what I'm going to call that. And it's lovely.
It's a good nickname for John.
Yeah, ginger bomb. That's what they used to call me.
Ginger bomb. I like it. I'll get the titles going again. We'll get that back up there for you. So Brent, we'll continue your story. I don't remember. I'm trying to think now. Was it your wedding or somebody else's wedding? Because we had a conversation like, oh, this is so important. That media is great, and we don't do so well as Catholics in the marketing and media that we put out there. And you had seen our stuff, and we're like, let's do something really, really awesome. And I remember just specifically having a conversation at that wedding, and it was like, maybe was it your wedding? Like in the upper deck of the area, the reception. There's like a lower area and then an upper area, and we were hanging out up there.
Nope, it wasn't mine. I'm trying to think of what it is now too.
Yeah.
Keep describing it. Was it like
man.
after the fact, or was it
during? During the wedding? No. It was in the reception. Maybe like in the evening. We're hanging out, drinking, and just talking about stuff, and we were kind of up in that upper area. And I even feel like at one point Monica's like, "Hey, come on, we gotta go. Like it's time to go." Like we were hanging out and talking so long.
We should have teased this before so that I could have thought that through, because I don't remember where we were. Oh, shoot.
Yeah, I'll get Monica. Do you remember? She's over here. The wedding, and it's like the genesis of Brent and us working together. Whose wedding it was, like in 2007, 2008, and there was like the reception. There was like an upper area with the seating. See, she's like, yes. She's like, I know.
Yeah, it's Patrick and Anna's wedding reception in Roxbury.
Do you hear that? Patrick and Anna's wedding in Roxbury.
So yeah, we were at the Dorf House probably.
Dorf House? Oh yeah. Yeah, I can like imagine decorations. See, your memory's amazing.
The first time Julie wore her cheetah.
Oh yeah. At the Dorf House.
No, I thought that's okay. I remember that reception though.
I was going to say it's good that you didn't occupy Brent for hours and hours at his wedding.
I mean, one way or another, it started it, but that's amazing. Like, especially too, like one of the only things I remember is like our conversation plus some of the decoration, but I don't remember much else about it. But you obviously
the Dorf House is
memory.
very unique because it's just always German.
Yeah,
so.
Sure. Yeah.
But I remember that, and so that was probably, I'm gonna say 2011, something like that. So it was a couple of years after I'd seen some of the stuff and I'd met you. So Monica went to go work for the Cathedral Parish in 2008.
Yeah.
So that's why you came over to my house for dinner. That's the only reason I ever invited you. But and then so I knew you for the next 3 years or so. I'd seen some of your guys' work previously, but but we weren't doing that much production. Mm-hmm. We also had somebody doing just regular recording in the office, but then in 2009 he left, so we needed something, and I didn't have any of the skills for any of that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think it was actually about a year after that, 2012, that we first did our first stuff, which would have been that Year of Faith
Yes. Oh my
series,
gosh, that was so great.
where the best part of it was making John get up at 5 a.m. in September and sending him up to Blue Mounds to take the sunset. I think more than one day because he needed to make sure he got it right.
Mm-hmm.
It took a few
Sunrise,
tries.
sorry.
Yeah, it took a few tries.
Yeah, and I was looking through tapes yesterday because I'm looking for. There's several weddings in John and my pasts that we both have to edit for our friends and family, and I was looking through our old tapes trying to find some of them, and I found those tapes from the Year of Faith, and that's 8 years ago, but that I still love that project and what we created in there.
It started 9 years ago this year, but so yeah.
Oh, there you go. That's right. Yeah, in my mind, it's so easy to calculate, to 2020, and then you add that one, and I can't. I can't do it. But that was a really fun one because it was, I think, maybe we were a little spoiled in that you wanted to do things uniquely, and we're open to our creative, which working with you has always kind of been very special in that regard. But that too was probably the first time we ever did any other type of larger campaign like that. So that was really cool for us.
How many did we do total? 6, 7? I pulled it up earlier, but I don't remember.
Somewhere around there sounds right.
Yeah.
7.
I mean, we could probably name off the different videos. But yeah, that and we did a lot of really fun cinematic stuff in there as well. I remember utilizing some new equipment as well as some new techniques. Because again, back to that conversation at Patrick's wedding of like, this stuff has to be awesome. Like we have to create content that people want to watch and resonate and want to share. And I think that's one of the special things that we've been able to do all the way through 2021.
Exactly. So one thing that, and John's engaged in this pretty heavily right now too. One thing that Bishop Hying, our new bishop, who's been here for a year and a half, is he's talking about evangelization. How do we evangelize? Well, you evangelize through that invitation to get to know God better. You evangelize through telling your own story. But then I guess the other thing is that this is what we were starting with back in 12 and 13, is evangelizing through beauty.
Mm-hmm.
If you remember back then, was he even Deacon Scott yet, or was he just Mr. Scott? We did that voiceover of one time also of Monsignor Bartilla reading through St. Augustine's prayer of beauty ever ancient, ever new. So it's just like, how do you bring people to God through beauty? Just natural beauty, the beauty of the liturgy, the beauty of the simple prayer. Go back to St. Bruno, the beauty of silence on a mountaintop in the French Alps.
With your green liqueur.
With green liqueur. But the idea that God, creator of everything, can draw people to himself just through creation.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where we're starting, because we're talking about Year of Faith and where does it start?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that's where John's sunrise shots, which is still like one of our top 3 watched videos on our YouTube page, just resonates with people.
Well, and it's a challenge. I'm trying not to. I'm like, oh, that's a very positive tone, and I was about to maybe have something that's slightly negative. The challenge, I think, in Catholic media or Christian media, I've heard this critique given by a few, some people, is that oftentimes, in a nonprofit, you're working with like lower budgets, or maybe you're working with people that have to go raise their own funding, things like that. And so people get into those areas because they're excited and energized about the mission, but then we sort of leave out the critique of the stuff that's being produced. You see this in like Christian music, Christian radio, like some of the music is kind of like blah, and I listen to it. We do enjoy a lot of it, but it's like because Christians are loving and nice toward each other, we don't tend to compete. We don't say this isn't good enough.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't the level that it needs to be. And so that's what we had set out to achieve in working with you. And I'm seeing a lot more of it now. There's a lot of people that are like, we need to like go toe to toe with the like upper level stuff. We don't want people just kind of like, well, I guess we'll just put up with it because it's Christian. We want people to be like, no, this is really good, really good stuff that we want to watch.
Oh, I completely agree with you. I don't even know what spurred those first conversations other than a glass of wine. But, the stuff that, I don't know if Spirit Juice was out yet, or it could have even been like Catholics Come Home. Some of the stuff that's just very visually engaging that you almost don't need to hear every word they're saying. You're just being drawn into it. And so we started talking about things. But we've kind of used that all along through the other projects we've worked on too, is, whether it's storytelling. I was looking at one that we did, which was just a promotional, like I don't know if it was 30 seconds or a minute promotional video for an ordination that was coming up. And it was just kind of a just very dramatic music thing with some words underneath it. It was like the trailer. But it was just kind of like, okay, let's have some fun.
Yeah.
Super.
I hope we've had some fun over the years too, going on whatever. We could talk 8 to 9 years now.
Yeah, and going and doing like the seminarian appeal content. That's been fantastic. And I hope that all of this leads to vocations in my own family, because we've been doing the seminarian videos too for so long that almost every, if not every 2 out of 3 stories is like, oh yeah, there was Father Bob, and Father Bob would hang out, and I just saw what a normal priest could be like. And their vocations stories often have like just living with a priest or a sister or something like that. And to that point, like we're now connected through this, obviously we were working together, but we are also friends, and now we're friends and working with, everyone in kind of in the community. And so, one night we, not too long ago, had several priests over, and it was amazing because we were playing like card games with them, and the kids are around that. So I think, aside from potentially the other marketing, media, other really cool things that can come out of this, evangelization from the actual pieces we create, I think there's an opportunity too for, vocations in my own family. So I'm very thankful for that.
That's awesome. Let's go back to the whole Priest for Our Future campaign, because that was awesome work. You guys helped us raise $30 million for the priestly formation of the future priests of the Diocese of Madison. That's so much. $30 million. Like, that's the biggest campaign we've ever done. Part of everybody whose job it was to go out and try to make a pitch to a family or an individual to say, would you be willing, Ryan, to give $1,000 over 5 years? That breaks down to this amount. Same thing, 5,000, 25,000, whatever it might be. Was they said, let's watch this video and then let's talk. So they started with the video. They had everyone sit there, and that was a little bit longer. Maybe it was 8. So I don't know what it was.
Yeah.
But it was, let's watch this together and then let's talk. And then they had their packet. But it started with the video. Like, they had a little DVD sleeve in the folder. They opened up the folder, pulled out the DVD, and started. But that shoot and that whole thing was one of the coolest things I've worked on with you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, it was super cool too. So aside from context, like I'm just so visual, and like looking back on that and like Year of Faith and some of those projects, like I'm still so pleased with what we were able to achieve with, what we had, and where we were at the time.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool to hear the priests' individual stories too, because you don't always get to hear that. You don't hear the reason that they gave their life to this vocation. And, just like the model of early Christians, sharing stories and witnessing to each other, that's what that video was able to do.
Mm-hmm.
And share the, I mean, I'm blanking on his name now, but who is the older priest who's no longer with us, who shared that story about what does he say? He's like,
Monsignor Burke, maybe? I'm not sure about
no,
it. Or
it's an older one than that, and he goes and he tells,
Monsignor Schmelzer.
yeah,
Monsignor Delbert Schmelzer, and going back to his mom.
and he said, he goes to his mom and says, "Mother, that's for me." I remember that.
Oh, that line, yeah.
Yeah.
The
But-
other big part of that is I'm thinking about our road trip to Detroit, the three of us.
Yeah.
Like that's where everyone in Madison is saying, "Where are we going to take a road trip? Let's go to Detroit."
Yes, that was such a fun experience too. I remember going out there as well, and we're like, oh my gosh, these giant hotels, and there's a lot of jewelry brokers. And I think you were like, yeah, that's Kalamazoo. Yeah, that's we're passing Kalamazoo there. That's what we have here.
Yeah, exactly.
And then when we were out there,
actually more Dearborn. But
Dearborn. You're right. You're right. That's Dearborn.
Let's think of so the two things that stick out from that shoot in Detroit. One, Ryan was getting set up for something else, and John and I went to go around the neighborhood to show how, because like every other house was either demolished, abandoned, or something. It was
or burned
a rough
out.
part of Detroit.
Yeah.
It was a really rough. So I'm driving this minivan that we had rented, and John is sitting in the back with a tripod set up with the lens, the barrel of the lens sticking out the window.
Yeah. So you're
pointing
setting
at
up a
these
drive-by.
people's houses.
Yeah.
And you sit there, and as we're going along, going, "This isn't the smartest thing we've done in our lives."
He definitely looked like warlord or something, just flying around the corner with a big cannon sticking out the window.
Yeah,
The other part was, I think we went to the guardhouse there, to go into the seminary where they train the young men to become priests. We went into there and we said, "We're here to shoot seminarians." Oh wait, that was the wrong verb.
that and like working with schools, like we always joke too, because we said that as well. Like, yeah, we're here to film with the students. You're like, oh my gosh, I almost said shoot. The students.
Actually, I was thinking about the coolest thing about going to the seminary and filming there is that, like, it's something you never get to see, something you never get to experience. And man, like going in there, you're like, oh man, I didn't already have my vocation to marriage and my family. Like it was just amazing to like be in that atmosphere. And you can see why it's so powerful as like a foundational moment for men entering the priesthood. Like I bet you're like leaning on that experience a lot throughout the remainder then of your vocation. Remembering back to the time of seminary, just like a lot of peace everywhere, and like different chapels to go to, and the atmosphere of the evening prayer, and that was fascinating.
Well, and certainly,
if you remember that.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. Well, if you remember that morning that we did the one of the shoots, it was Mass in the Chaldean Rite. So it was the Mass that the church in Iraq celebrates. It's just such a small part of the Catholic world, but it's this ritual that only those people that are really in Iraq, and it was, of course, it was in English, but that's where the people of that's where that church in Detroit sends their seminarians, because outside of what's the capital of Iraq?
Yep, we're terrible.
Outside of Baghdad, they're the only place that there are more Chaldean Catholics are in Detroit, Michigan, in the Archdiocese of Detroit. Oh, sure. Same thing. The only place outside of Krakow, Poland, are in Chicago. So I mean, just these pockets of immigrants that pop up, and so Detroit's one of those. But that's the mass we went to, and I just remember that being so beautiful too, because it was a little bit different than we might be used to. You and I, Anglo-Latin right guys.
Yeah, well, I definitely remember that. I mean, that was amazing to take part in and listen to. I think they said the Our Father like 3 different times or something, and then the melodies are so, they're like Middle Eastern. And to me, it was fascinating because I just kept thinking like, this is what this probably sounded like more. I was thinking about like the early Christian church. I'm like, these are the melodies that would have been a part of the mass, part of what they would sing, So there was something really cool about that.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
Yeah. And we got to see and live that. And I love, it's not for everyone, certainly in the same way, but I can't remember who has said this, but essentially they're saying like, as a man, you're not discerning unless you're in the seminary. And I didn't go to seminary. I don't know. I don't think either of you went to seminary. So again, it's not for everyone in the same way, but I just love that idea because it's that idea of discernment is going through doors. And saying yes and then changing as needed. So to John's point of, I don't know what it was, but whatever I saw there and felt there, I'm like, my life could have been very different had I actually experienced something like this. And absolutely I would not change that if I could time travel today, because we have all these wonderful people now in our family and it's amazing. But I think about that for my sons in their discernment, because they see family and family life 90% of the time, and they only get to see the real lived out priestly life or ordained life 10% of the time. And so they're like, no, I want to get married and have kids. It looks like fun. But hopefully we can be around them and isn't that hilarious, as married people with children? You're like, oh, God bless your little heart that you think that. But just thinking of how to best get them positioned to make that choice. Like, they have great family examples, and I want them to have great, priestly examples. And like for the girls, it's so great that the Sisters of Mary Morningstar are here, because they can see that. And we were literally driving into school this morning, and the kids are joking around, and talking about the playing outside and stuff. And they're like, yeah. And yesterday or whenever it was, the sisters, like 3 of the sisters were having a snowball fight right over here. And I was like, that's beautiful. That's amazing. Like, you see that, and you're not, you don't have the wrong perspective of what that vocation looks like. You have a very, you start to get a more real picture of those people, and it's beautiful. And so I think that can better help our children, or any young folk. Like, how old are we now? When you said like young people or something going into.
Are you
seminary.
Guys 35 yet?
Yeah. You can vote for us.
Okay. As a good friend of mine, priest, maybe bishop, said, you wouldn't ever decide to get married without dating. It's in some ways that's how kind of the seminary would work. Yeah, it might not be for you. Similarly, you wouldn't want a priest to choose to be a priest who never dated, type of a thing. So, it's, if a kid came in at 17 years old, 17 and a half, 18, never dated anybody, and said, I want to be a priest, they would be told, no, you got to go. I'm not saying you got to go date a girl, but you have to go to college for 2 years, do something. But similarly, you wouldn't want to make a decision sometimes even for marriage, without, maybe not in seminary, but seriously considering the idea of a vocation. And I think that's where we are in our generation, that you guys at least want to propose that to your children. I want to propose that to my children. We name our kids after saints, right? So I'm talking to my son Beckett, whose feast was just like 2.5 weeks ago. I'm like, hey buddy, St. Thomas Becket was killed by the king because he wouldn't do what the king said. Don't you want to be like him when you grow up?
Yeah.
And so I always introduce him as the next Archbishop of Canterbury, because after the Episcopalian and Anglican takeover of the Church of England, we haven't had a Catholic Archbishop of Canterbury, but my son is going to be the next one.
Right. So Brent, how much time? Well, you don't have to answer on a time or percentage basis. Maybe just tell us a little bit about the challenges of. I imagine that there's a challenge being the communications director for a diocese. Not getting hung up only on responding to, like defending yourself, but being able to put out messaging that is like positive, that you're not always like on your heels reactionary, but that you're, also trying to like get out the message too.
No, I guess a lot of that has to do with why I even first engaged with both of you and your whole team, was we need to be more proactive rather than reactive. The whole Year of Faith series, starting from there, everything else we've produced has always been trying to lead with the positive, but then there's also got to be reaction from the other side, whether it's, okay, what's the next step for you? So I guess that's why I have worked with you guys so much, is we want to make this attractive to people. We want to pitch the truth. There's always going to be that part of me that has to deal with all of the reactionary type things. Right now, more of my time is spent with the proactive stuff, the good, positive stuff. Since Bishop Hying has been here in June 26th, well, might have been a day or two before that, June of 2019, we have pushed out over 350 videos, those moments with the bishop. And I thank you guys for the way the help you guys have given me to like just teach me how to do things quickly on my own. Yes, we have our subscription to Adobe Suite and the Premiere Pro and all that kind of stuff, and that I can, where it took me an hour to do something 2 years ago, now I can do it in 15 minutes, 10 minutes. Just, I wake up at 6 a.m, put it together, send it out. But that's over 350 videos that Bishop Hying has put out. That reaches a lot of people every day, over social media, direct email, through Flocknote, which is a thing we use. I think we're more geared toward the proactive, but always ready for the reactive, which is a big change from where I came in 2002, which was on our heels, sitting there going, what's coming next? What's coming next? What's coming next? Now, you always have to ask yourself what's coming next, and maybe be ready. But the most important thing is, how are we going to proclaim the good news of Jesus Christ? And if that's where we're coming from, then we always have to be the more proactive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's been a crazy year. We keep hearing that and we keep saying that, and I'm kind of done saying that and hearing it. But for you, like what did that look like, in terms of you have a capability and you can do a lot of stuff, which is, every organization needs that. You got to be able to do stuff in-house. It's, it's economical, but then it's practical too, because you can go much, much faster. But then, we can't gather in person, and everyone's going streaming. Everyone's trying to put out online content. Like what was like March, April, and May like for you? Was it different? Was it not? What, what was
It
it
was
like?
very different. So there were a handful of us that were in the office almost every day. Part of it was just because of the work that we needed to do. I would say that the two biggest things were, because everything was shut down, how do we get people to get engaged with their church? And it's twofold. One, how do you get people to actually pray and worship if they can't be there in person, which they weren't allowed to do for a couple months? I was trying to look it up real quick here, but how many parishes of ours have at least some kind of online streaming video, or not, even if not streaming, recorded for, and we're getting to half or over half of 130, 102 parishes. So I think there were 47, maybe 60. A lot of our churches have live streaming or recorded masses for parishioners.
Mm-hmm.
I think another part was we brought on a diocesan-wide subscription to a thing called Flocknote. And Flocknote is a way to engage. I think John knows this for St. Mary's. I don't know if IHM uses it, Ryan.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
But through the school, it's perfect. It's great. But then also through the parish, it's a way to get the word out about upcoming things. But it's that connectivity, that connection that you need to have with your parish. So we did that in not early, but mid to late March. We just made the decision, okay, we're going to do this diocesan-wide and make it available to every single parish in the diocese, which is 11 counties, 102 parishes, 46 schools. How do we engage with these people? I guess the third thing that came to mind was, regardless of if people are going to church, the church needs to keep the lights on. Church needs to be able to pay its heating bill and stuff like that. So it was also engaging with people early on about watch things online, and if you can, please keep contributing to your parish. Which I had never had a consistent. I'd given online, for this appeal or that appeal, or oh, I didn't give in church this week, let me go online and give $10. But the idea of just having a consistent, both at the diocesan level and the parish level, of I'm going to give $75 a month to the diocese, and I'm going to give $20 a week to my parish. Just to make a decision about an amount and do it. That's one thing that changed within me personally, but that's also something that we encourage to others.
Yeah, and
I don't know if you guys, maybe you guys were way ahead of me.
Yeah, I mean at IHM, we helped them kind of get up their online donations 2 years previous. So there were, I can't remember, maybe like 10% of people using the online donation system. And then when COVID hit, obviously we tried to get everyone over to online donations. And I think we saw a huge spike in that use in that system. But yeah, I found the whole thing, again, an opportunity to really engage the family and engage everyone here in our faith. And it was fantastic. And some of those things we've kind of kept, some of those attitudes or behaviors, because we would do processions around the house, to an opening song or something, with a little kid carrying a crucifix and all that stuff. And, in the best way that we could possible, we're trying to enter into worship from afar, utilizing whatever we have available. And I think it was awesome, the response, how quickly it was that people got up and running, and even the flock note, which we're still using now. It's just like leaps and bounds. It's so funny. It's like a simple technology, but sometimes it takes things like, pandemic. Hopefully we don't require this too many times to do awesome things, but just to improve communication, like you were saying, to simplify, improve it. It makes it simple on the admin side, on the parish and the staff and the pastor side. But then for us, it's so nice and easy and simple, instead of getting emailed a PDF or a docx file or, something silly. So I think I think there's been a lot of good that's come out of that in terms of how we interact, and, a concentration of the good to some degree.
Well, and you always hope that good can come out of trial, that God can work all things for, the good of those who love him. I don't remember the quote, but, I think everybody being shoved back into their living rooms and their homes inspired a lot of us to, like, well, we're going to have to watch Mass online today. So in addition to watching it online, we're also kind of setting up a home altar or something like that. And really, that doesn't go away when we go back, in person. Like, that's something that was a good thing that we should have had all along. And the trial sort of like forced the creativity and forced, people coming up with new ways to interact with the Mass. Similar, on the business side of things, I think everybody realizes, like, video and streaming video and live video is not going away. When we return to, sort of normal or the status quo, these things that kind of had to come out of necessity, there are times when they are really valuable. Now, I'm ready to, like, not be having all video meetings anymore, but there's a value to just the reminder that, like, my relatives that live a lot further away that I see 2 times a year, I'm still only going to see them 2 times a year after this, the new normal. But why don't I engage with them on video more often? I'm not that I'm seeking to go to the level that we've been forced into, but, like, there's just been, necessity drives innovation and change and creativity and things like that. So that's the silver lining, I guess.
Yeah, good things.
No. And if we hadn't started in June of 19 with Bishop Hines' moment with the bishop that we've been putting out all the time, and then we switched to Flock Note, which we got thousands more people watching every day. But if we hadn't started that 6 months earlier or 9 months earlier, I would have been so far behind the 8 ball that I would have been trying to. But it was like, okay, I know how to do this. I can get his. But he was able to engage with, I don't know exactly how many people. I've tried to run some of the analytics, but whether it's through social media, direct email, and other things, he's still engaged with people that want to be engaged.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been very, very helpful. But it's like that's one thing that be ahead of the curve on the media if you can, on the technology, so as you're not caught sitting there going, how do I live stream Mass? Which I give credit to everybody who did that with their iPhone or their iPad or their computer, which a lot of them were doing, and I give them a lot of credit for that. But just for you guys helped me set up things, whether it was the ULive that I ended up purchasing and some other things that I can use that very simply to just broadcast anything. So
And that's a super valuable point because I've had a few different people ask me like, well, what kind of camera? What do I need to do for streaming? How do we do this thing? And I'm like, right here, like you've got the whole thing. It's wireless. It has a video camera. It streams, you know, like there are times that you need something more complex, and you can set up a whole big system. But again, it's like not only were we forced to think creatively and forced to come up with some new ideas, we also have the tools at our fingertips. Like when else have we been more prepared to go virtual, and to not be
Mm-hmm.
connected? Like you could imagine many other generations in life where this kind of a shutdown would have I mean, it was already devastating, but where it would have just been even more,
Yeah.
whatever made more.
Yeah, if we couldn't talk to our friends or our family, if we couldn't still work, instead of 14% unemployment, like, well, how crazy would that be? And I hope it's not a 100-year thing, 1920s and then 2020 sort of deal, 2120. But we are positioned so well, and it was great to be able to jump into maybe more communion in some way. So again, it was very devastating in a lot of different ways, but we played more game nights with friends and family who we didn't get to see as often, which was really fantastic. Positive things like that. I did before I moved on. Brent, when you were saying like, had you not been set up with Flocknote, you would have been. And that's what I saw, and that's what I heard in my mind. You were like, "We would have been but you took it a different way because you're not only are you a director of communications, you're a master of communications. So we do have a couple questions from Emily. So one's more fun. What's your favorite movie? But I don't want you to answer that right now. You can answer that after. The other one is, what does your job look like on a day-to-day basis?
I tell lots of people that, well, I tell too many people that the, the worst thing about being a communications director is that you have to be part of everything. And then I say the best thing about being a communications director is you get to be part of everything. So it's the have to part and the get to part. So it's everything that's good or bad. It's, hey, we've got a new hire today. Can you announce it? Sure, I can do that.
Yeah, I've got nothing else to do. Happy to do it.
Yeah, it's taking the calls from the press that are the worst calls that you ever want to get. Like, we heard that one of your parishioners at IHM just did this. What do you want to say about that? Nothing.
Yeah, you're like Ryan's mostly a trustworthy guy.
Yeah, but then there's the best side of it, which is, okay, we want to roll out this initiative to try to reach as many people who aren't going to church right now that we need to try to get back to church. How do we think that through from A to Z? Now it gets exhausting, but sometimes there's that too. Day to day, yeah, it's a lot of email. There are too many meetings,
Mm-hmm.
but then there's all I have a whiteboard over here with just tracking what I've been doing for the last week with everything. And yeah, there are probably maybe 100 email on there and things like that. But there are also all the other things of sitting there and saying, how do we make this new employee feel at home? Okay, we have a staff catechesis this day, and let's make sure he's welcomed. But then another part of it is this past week we had a staff catechesis in our office, which is just learning about the faith deeper with the bishop. And in that, I used the system that I worked with you guys on to live stream it for those employees of ours who are still at home, whether it's because of kids or sickness or other things. And so we had 14 staff members watching from home, but I was up in the choir loft doing all the switching and zooming and everything like that between the couple cameras that we already have set up. So I mean that's part of the day to day. Yeah, we had interviews this week. The press came into our office. The good part about being communications director for the Diocese of Madison is I'm the only one. I'm a one-man show. So yeah, it's sometimes it's doing the graphic art. Sometimes it's doing all the videos. I guess that's a big part of it. I've done 350 videos for the bishop. That I use my phone for, but that, like John just said, we've got the technology right here. We don't need to go set up a camera. I bought a cool, little tripod that's got all the balancing and everything like that in it. That's been super helpful. But I upload it to the iCloud, and then I edit it at home at night. So,
and when I'm very curious too, like how do you handle your kind of larger tasks, ongoing projects? How do you do that day to day when someone could just call you and just blow up your day? A reporter calls you and you're like, okay, I can't just give them an answer. Now I have to go find this out and figure this out, and or something comes up like, oh, we need to do this. How do you kind of manage your day? Do you try to schedule like half your day and then leave the rest open, or like what do you do?
I guess I have my priorities of this is what has to get done today, and leave. This is what I want to get done today, and then you have to leave some room for chaos. And sometimes chaos takes over the whole thing. I think in the last few days, I've had a couple things that came up where I said a day later, sorry, I'm a day late. Here's what I promised you. You take it from here. But it's kind of that priority of this is what I have, like thinking it through before you open your eyes. You're awake, but you're not really awake. Okay, this is what I have to get done today. This is what I want to get done today. And I know other things are going to come up. It's great when those days come where nothing else comes up. But, I mean, just this week, it was pretty easy. We had a TV crew wanting to come in and talk to the bishop about vaccinations. And so we said, okay, come at noon. So they did. And it was 5 minutes and easy, but
nice.
It was something we hadn't prepared for in the beginning of the day, but it also didn't alter the rest of my day.
Yeah, that's nice. And in another topic too, I was just looking at your video. It looks great. You said you're on your phone, are you?
I am.
Yeah, I mean that's to John's point of like how awesome it can be. Like the resolution is awesome. I think your resolution is actually better than John's MacBook camera.
Yeah.
It's probably 8 or 10 years old, probably like 8 years old now. So you could just see the technology difference there.
That's true. I should probably switch over to my phone as well.
Actually, yeah, that's not a terrible idea.
I hadn't thought of that at all, but I think it's gonna happen. I got this. My mom got me this nice little new ring light for Christmas, and it has a like a bendy arm phone
like
holder
mount
right in the middle of it.
Yeah, let's do that next week.
It's gonna happen.
You're gonna be on the phone. You'll be a silky
smooth. If I were
as
at
Brent.
home, I probably wouldn't use my phone just because of signal. I've been on too many calls where I walk out into the sidewalk or street where I'm like just trying to get like a Zoom call or something like that where I need to have the best signal I can get.
Yeah.
So that's funny.
I'm in the office.
Do you not have good internet, reliable internet at home?
We do, but usually when I'm taking a call I want to be a little bit more discreet where I don't want my kids listening to everything I'm talking about.
Or you don't want to show I'll put this on the stream. You don't want to show the giant mess behind you.
Exactly.
Because you're changing your room around or whatever.
I moved my office back in March. I moved it into the piano room that flows out of the toy room. So it's like, it is complete chaos. It's my girls' piano stuff thrown up like confetti every day.
Yeah.
And then the toys that keep coming out that I just kick back in. So.
there's only one angle in here that looks. I'll even shift it. There's only one angle in here that looks sort of nice, and it's where we have the wall with the instruments hanging on it. But everywhere else in here is pretty chaotic. Also, I don't know why I did this, but it looked really cool. So we took the ceiling down in here at one point because it was old, really bad, like ceiling tile. And we left it open because it has a cool look, and we painted the rafters, but it's like, it's the music room, but it's just like, there's no like sound barrier. It's just, so if they're like playing over in the other room over there, it's just comes right in here. Or if they're stomping in the dining room above me. It's great.
And
I'm sorry, I was
because you
muted.
asked them both.
Hang on, I'm sorry, I was muted.
What was that question, Ryan?
What was that?
What was
Well, that's
the
the other live thing. Like, I need to time my mute button when I cough to you guys so you can be like, we can't hear you. You're dumb. Yeah, Emily just texted me. Let me know I'm muted. I'm so fascinated. We're going to jump into favorite movie because it tells us so much about you. And it can be intellectual. It could be your island movie, the movie that you would want, the one movie you'd want on an island because you'd watch it over and over, or your favorite movie that you could only ever watch once for whatever reason. So, Brent, what's your favorite movie?
Because we were talking about the other thing, I wasn't thinking about it, but I want to give my gut reaction sometimes.
Yeah.
Just I really am a big fan of The Godfather, and I'm not for the morals that it portrays, not because of any heroes that are in there or anything like that, but the drama, even the reactions of the individuals. I mean, the actors involved are the best actors in the last 50 years. But I probably watched The Godfather not maybe more than any other movie. I mean, Princess Bride might be more than anything else.
Oh, nice.
Or a couple others like that. But if you said, what's your favorite movie?
Yep.
I almost watch The Godfather each time, like I've never watched it again, trying to pick up something new. And, I love the evolution and of the whole series of Godfather movies of Michael Corleone, just this guy that, or the parallels between father and son in The Godfather Part 2. Like, they didn't want this, they didn't choose this, but they got roped into it and they can't get out of it. No, I guess that if you, it's cheating, but it's kind of the Godfather movies.
Yeah, that's legit. I mean, even cinematically and story-wise, there's a lot to love in there. And I was watching something recently, which is kind of like the analysis on, I believe it's the first Godfather, where there's the baptism scene and then the like murder. There's like juxtaposition, and
one for one. Each time Michael makes a promise, somebody else is killed every time.
How powerful that technique was used in a way that it hadn't been used quite like that before. So I think there's a lot of things.
But it also goes to show the sadly how evil some people who profess such serious things are being at the same time. It's so.
That's great. Oh, you might be getting a
phone call. Did I lose you guys?
Yeah, we still hear you. Yeah, you're back. I was gonna say, yeah, that's really fun as well. Now we see a chair. You're like, my favorite movie as a Catholic is a movie about some of the worst Catholics.
Exactly.
There's a lot of things that you can learn though from there's a lot of things you can learn from movies like that, or like a lot of people. I've actually heard a ton of Catholics talk about the show Breaking Bad, which has a ton of bad stuff in it, but it stays centered on the truth that you can't win doing bad things. That you will fail.
Well,
And
and
it
even
will.
that shows about the descent of sin, or to darkness of a good man. Like that's the whole point of the show, is to show that contrast. You can read more about that, which is fascinating. So yeah, I mean, I love The Godfather as well. And if you watch a movie like The Godfather and you're like, yeah, let's go get some guns and be like, say hello to my little friend, or that's Scarface, I guess. But if you want to do stuff like that, like chop off a horse's head and put it in somebody's bed, you've got more problems than a movie can help you with. Like if you watch that movie and come off and you're like, man, that makes me think about some stuff. That's probably a good movie, I think.
Yeah.
I guess that's the part of it, is the whole hypocrisy part of it that some people get sold into, but they weren't there in the beginning. Like, or even sin, that started out a righteous man.
Mm.
You got to here, but then all of a sudden you start getting drawn into something, and then you want out, but then you're stuck and you can't get out. I mean, I'll criticize Godfather Part 3 as much as anybody else, but Al Pacino's character, Michael, just ends up falling over dead alone in this, villa. And it's just like, it's not a happy death.
Mm-hmm.
His life of crime did not work for itself, did not pay out.
It took a couple movies to figure that out, but yeah. So now we kind of are reaching the point where we should wind down, and we're going to play a little game called Two Truths and a Lie. We haven't played it in many weeks, and I even gave you a heads up because I knew we would talk, very a long time, and I like to I like to make sure that we don't take too much of your time, that we keep to the schedule that we put out there. So we're gonna play Two Truths and a Lie. Let's start with John. And then we'll go me, and then we'll save you, Brent, for last. I know you've already hopefully come up with some things, but we'll start with John.
Thank you for tipping me off, because if you put me on the spot for that one, it would have been too short. It would have been, I like cats.
I don't like cats. Like, well, one of those is a lie.
One of those.
Yeah. All right, what do you got, John?
So who's going first?
All right.
Johnny boy, let's see. Let me throw up a graphic. Boom, Two Truths and a Lie.
Oh boy, these are going to be short and sweet today, I think.
Good.
All right. I have been a stone's throw from a saint.
A living saint?
I've said what I have said.
Now,
I
do we guess each time, or after
No.
three?
Yeah, we'll wait until he does all three.
Because you might need context. You might want to pair them together.
And usually he answers the question, but not for that first one.
I have never downhill skied.
Hmm.
And my third one, I have never had poison ivy. There you go.
Yeah, and we're allowed to discuss as well. And Brent, I'll have you guess first because I have a little bit more knowledge in some of these things. But these are good ones.
So I know John's an outdoorsy guy. I know that he likes to go up to the boundary waters. I know he likes to get outdoors and camp and do those types of things. So that's where poison ivy is taking me a little bit each way, where I'm saying if he's allergic to it, he's probably had it. So that's with that. What was number 2? Downhill skied. John, did you grow up in Iowa?
South Dakota. And then Wisconsin.
The hills are not so plentiful in South Dakota, especially
Eastern
South Dakota.
Wisconsin.
Southeast.
Southeast.
I'm thinking you have been a stone's throw away from a saint. Whether it be, I'm thinking you have. Even Pope St. John Paul II or somebody else. But I think I'm going with Poison Ivy.
Never mind Poison Ivy. This is a good one. I also want people to guess at home. So anybody watching, John's he's been a stone's throw away from a saint. No other clues given. Number 3 was Poison Ivy. You've never had Poison Ivy or gotten poison, whatever. I don't know how you say that. You don't get it.
I've never had it.
Okay, you never had it. And then number 2, you've never downhill skied.
Right.
Yeah. So let us know what you have at home. There might be a 10 or 20 second delay. And then what, Brent, you picked Poison Ivy?
Yep.
You picked Poison Ivy. Okay. So I'm going to do a quick analysis on this. So trying to think of the saint. I mean, it's possible. So St. Maria Goretti's body did come through Madison, and you wouldn't answer my question. So maybe you saw her body, which was awesome. And I'm trying to think of what's that?
It'd be a giveaway, I think, if I gave any more context.
Yeah, don't give any more context. I'm trying to think of your like European travels, like if you've been around other, saints' tombs or bodies or anything. And then I'm trying to think if you've ever been to like World Youth Day, been around like JP2 or something like that. But then again, I think that might be true. Did you say like your sister shook a president's hand? Now I'm mixing up all the truths and lies that John has put out there.
It was Reese Witherspoon.
Reese Witherspoon. Emily says skiing is a lie. Here, let me see if I can pull that up. Downhill skiing, and then Poison Ivy. This is good. I don't know. So you picked Poison Ivy. Emily picked skiing. I guess I'll pick the third one, so one of us wins. I'm gonna pick. Let's see if I can get this question up there. Go. There we go. Let's get rid of that. There. Emily Halfman. I think skiing's a lie. I'm gonna pick the saint. So what is it, John? 1, 2, or 3? Who's right?
Oh man, you know what? It wasn't until just this. Yeah, I don't think I've done this. I think everybody other guests has done this.
Did you
I
cheat?
thought I had really good ones, and then I realized that they're all truths.
Oh, no big deal. No big deal.
That's really funny. It completely somehow. It's weird. You wouldn't think the game would be that hard to just do it that way, but
Yeah.
So. Yeah, one of these I was gonna put in a lie, and then I just wrote 3 truths.
So we all lose.
So I think I lost. Actually, I lost that round somehow. Yeah, I've been just I don't know, 20 feet from Pope St. John Paul II in World Youth Day in Toronto. We actually were over by like a road where